Hello, I'm Geronimo, and you are watching Rappler Recap. We are here at the Philippine International we are here at the PICC as the Philippines hosts the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction from October 14 to 18 here at the PICC. So this conference is the main platform in the region to monitor and review progress on the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. This is already the third day of the conference. So on the first day, Environment Secretary Tony Yuloloizaga, Defense Secretary Gibo Chidoro, and United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction Head Kamal Kishore met members of the press to talk about the significance of the Philippines hosting this regional conference. Chodoro said the Philippines is in a unique position to bridge the Pacific Islands with Southeast Asia in terms of regional cooperation in disaster risk reduction. Kishore also said that the Philippines is, quote, way ahead of the curve in disaster risk reduction, but it is important to point out that the Asia Pacific region is the most disaster prone region in the world. Iya?
So on Tuesday, kahapon lang, nagkaroon ng turnover ceremony between Australia and the Philippines. So APMCDRR happens every 2 years. So noong 2022, it was hosted in Brisbane, Australia. And yesterday, officially nag-turn over na si Australian Ambassador to Manila HKU to Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And in that welcome ceremony, which was attended by a lot of people, punong-puno yung plenary hall ng PICC, Marcos gave a speech sharing about the collective experience of Asia Pacific as a vulnerable region, saying that the Philippines experiencing a lot of disasters. We're no strangers to disasters, but we're also not a nation in the region that's experiencing these disasters exacerbated by the climate crisis. And to give you an idea, when we say Asia Pacific, that includes the small Pacific island states, kasama ng Guinea Vanuatu. These states na nangunguna sa mga climate litigation in the international, in the world stage, So part of Mark's speech to he said that we have to redouble our efforts to implement the Sendai framework. So maybe you're hearing a lot and reading a lot about Sendai framework. No, if you've been following our news and updates on the APMCDRR. So ano ba tong Sendai framework? The Sendai framework is a document that UN member states agreed on back in 2015, in Japan. So the framework sets global targets, including reduction of mortality rate, economic loss, infrastructure damage that is related to disaster. So early 2023, the United Nations released a midterm review, uh, checking ano na ba yung status ng implementation ng Sendai framework uh, across member states. And well, bad news, the countries are not on track, to meet the targets. Kishore said kahapon din, when he delivered his speech before President Marcos gave his remarks, na we are lagging behind in the implementation of the Sendai framework. And lagging behind means for the Asia Pacific region, means derailment of development. But the good news is, at least from the midterm review, we've seen na from 15 countries na merong disaster risk reduction strategies na aligned sa Sendai, we now have 63 countries. So that's the period between 2015 to 2024. So what we're seeing, at least from what we've heard from United Nations DRR head Kishore and from Philippine President Marcos, the big picture here is Asia Pacific is a region that is in development. We have the potential, but it's also a region that is most vulnerable to the impacts of disasters, the impacts of the intensifying climate crisis. And it's also a region that has the most potential to innovate approaches to disaster risk reduction.
Yeah, sabi mo nga, we still have so much catching up to do, and then when you look at the Sendai framework, we only have 6 years left to meet those targets. On Monday, Kishore also said that the world has already made progress when it comes to reducing the loss of lives. In the first 10 years of the Sendai framework, we're already just 6 more years to go, but there's not enough progress in terms of reducing the loss of livelihood. Um, Kahapon din, during the opening ceremony, President Ferdinand Marcos rallied the delegations and the Asia Pacific region, the Asia Pacific countries to put more investments and funding into disaster risk reduction efforts. So sabi niya, we must significantly increase our investments and develop financing mechanisms in disaster risk reduction. Sustained and predictable data in financing would help address disaster risks better. It's important to note that the Philippines is hosting the board of the Loss and Damage Fund, and actually that's one of the nakasama yan sa mga discussions also in some of the panel sessions here in the conference. In one panel session, uh, Climate Change Commission Assistant Secretary Romel Cuenca said that yung Sendai, yung Santiago Network, which is isa yun sa mga na-establish ng COP25 na meant to complement the Loss and Damage Fund. Both the Santiago Network and the Loss and Damage Fund, they are yung dalawang yun are crucial for vulnerable countries like the Philippines. So, and why that's important is because having a dedicated fund, sabi ni Cuenca, will benefit especially the most vulnerable countries, because then they would have the vulnerable countries will not have to make a choice between pursuing government pathways, so ito yung tedious, laborious work of having to present so many paperworks, and having to rehabilitate or recover, because then meron na, sabi niya, there is already a dedicated fund for the loss and damage aspects of a disaster, or when a disaster happens. So ang daming discussions about loss and damage and climate financing here in this conference, and what we're looking at is sana pag nagkaroon ng outcome statement that climate financing, and specifically financing on disaster risk reduction, will be one of the main points of the outcome statement at the end of this conference. Iya.
Actually, just to add, no, isa pa sa nangyari kahapon, although we were not there because it's a closed-door meeting, nagbigay ng ministerial statements yung mga representatives from different countries. But we have yet to update you on that kasi in-upload din pa yung mga statements on the website as we speak. I think no media was doon sa room na iyon nung binibigay yung ministerial statement. So,
Yeah, but
yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
some countries, when you look at the website of the conference, some countries have already uploaded. So basically, those statements is to give an update on where the country is in implementing the Sendai framework. Okay, sige, go Iya.
Right. So, as G mentioned earlier, no, isa sa mga topics dito sa conference is financing. Another big thing here is how space tech and artificial intelligence or AI can help in disaster risk reduction. So, yesterday then, I went into this panel session about the European Union's Copernicus Sentinel satellites and yung magiging first mirror site nito sa Asia, which will be located here in the Philippines, actually. So this is a big thing. So having that mirror site will have more access on data from the Sentinel satellites from the European Union. And one very, very interesting thing raised by one of the speakers there was that having satellite data, i-shift na natin yung question from when is it going to rain? Ano yung magnitude ng rainfall? Saan magkakaroon ng rainfall? Saan ano yung location, yung magnitude? We will shift from these questions to how many people will be affected? How many houses will be damaged? So having the right information will be able to tell us that. So having this mindset, a shift in mindset, no, and shift in mode na parang from hazard-based forecast, we are going towards an impact-based forecast, which is what the world needs now, and what a country like the Philippines, experiencing an average of 20 tropical cyclones a year, needs. Diba? How basically it's going to lead us to the ultimate question that really matters. What are we going to do during disasters? And another session I went to today is about the big one, or at least how we're preparing for that, how the public and the private sector must work together to prepare for the big one. And interestingly, one of the moderator said na ito lang yung earthquake-related panel session dito sa buong week-long conference na to. But that I would say, sasabihin ko sana understandable, but it shouldn't be. Pero I think mas meron tayong tendency to discuss more about hydro-related disasters like storms, etc. Pero yung mga seismic events, hindi masyado. So, doon din, they also tackled yung technology. So, one of the technologies from Japan, which is called a platform called SpecT. So they crowdsource social media posts on disasters. Then they use artificial intelligence to analyze the what, kung kung flooding to, etc. And the where. And then they verify it. They verify it. Mga tao yung nagve-verify. And then they alert it through emails, through notifications, through apps. And tong platform na to, I think it's being brought here in the Philippines. Nagkaroon ng feasibility studies conducted by JICA in Cebu, Bohol, Davao, Albay, Legazpi, also in partnership with OCD and MMDA. So yun, aside from, so those are yung mga brushstrokes, at least from what we're getting in the past days here in the conference. We're a region that is vulnerable to disasters, one of the most vulnerable to disasters, but we will also have the potential to create innovations in how we approach these disasters. And the big stroke of financing, saan natin yung kukunin yung pera. You know, we talk about empowering communities, we talk about transferring knowledge to communities, capacitating communities, all these lingo, diba, of civil society. But how do we actually do that? We need money, so that's financing. And then we have technology. How do we introduce tech, AI? How do we harness satellite data na magagamit siya ng end users on the ground? G?
Right. Speaking of communities, I also have been sitting on some sessions where communities get to share their best practices. There are sabi mo hindi masyado na pag-uusapan yung puro hydro related disasters, but in that particular session na pag-usapan yung landslides, apparently in other countries meron silang community based efforts where they tap the community to monitor and report landslides or potential landslides in their area. So those solutions that are coming from the communities are being highlighted in this conference. So yun yung nangyayari dito. But of course, the reality of the knowledge sharing here is that for us to be able to share those best practices, ibig sabihin, disasters are still happening as we speak. Disasters are happening in these countries, in this most vulnerable part of the region of the world. I also got to sit on sessions on specifically on heat waves. That's one of the things na bago na talagang tinututukan dito, heat stress and how that's affecting the most vulnerable. So women and people with disabilities. So yung specific na pagiging gender responsive and inclusive ng disaster risk governance is actually the theme of today's panel and today's sessions. So we have only until tomorrow that this conference will end. Actually, it will end on the Friday. Merong parang magiging field trip yung mga delegates into other places. But the sessions, the panels, the sessions that delegates can attend, they will run until tomorrow. And for more of those updates, if you want to see what we're doing, what's happening here at PICC, kung merong mga specific kayong disasters na gustong tutukan or communities that you want to get to know, download the communities app of Rappler and join the Project Agos chat group for more updates here from PICC. We'll do more stories on those panel sessions that we've been covering, from those community-based solutions that are coming from different countries of the region. And for more of that, join us, follow Rappler's updates. And this has been, I'm Geronimo, and Gozum is with me. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.